Are you a high-performing parent, entrepreneur, or high achiever in pursuit of excellence? Welcome to The Nexus Podcast, a podcast custom-tailored for families like ours, driven, affluent, and eager to lead extraordinary lives. From rockstar stay-at-home moms to high-producing CEOs, we choose to model success for everyone we are surrounded by. We prioritize health over sickness, embrace a vitalistic lifestyle, and seek to tap into the limitless potential that God has bestowed upon us. I'm Dr. Daniel Kimbley, your host, and on this podcast, we'll uncover the secrets to living a fulfilling and abundant life, where you and your loved ones can thrive physically, mentally, and spiritually. Together, we'll forge a path to greatness and unleash your God-given capabilities. Get ready to say yes to a life of true prosperity and well-being. This is The Nexus Podcast. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the podcast, and I am just so fired up to share this episode with you because I had a lot of thoughts this past week. It's actually something that happened to my wife, my daughter, and I on Saturday as we were going on a little family adventure, and we were sitting in quite a bit of traffic for what the day was, even though it was a slightly rainy, cloudy day. Usually there's not a lot of people on the roads in California, but this time there were. And we're sitting there and, you know, like it's kind of a rainy day, we're all a little bit tired. We're sitting there in traffic, and in one of the spots in Dana Point, there's a coffee shop that gets pretty busy and traffic gets backed up at the stoplight. And so a lot of times people will just kind of not let the people coming out of the coffee shop get out. And so we're sitting there behind a car, and the car wouldn't let this woman who was leaving from the coffee shop, wouldn't let her out. So when the light turned green, that car went on, and the woman sitting at the coffee shop waiting to get out was so mad at the car who didn't let her out that she literally wasn't paying attention. She was so mad, and she was like looking at the car and kind of flipping them off or whatever. And she was so angry that she couldn't even realize that the car behind her, which was me, was letting her out and letting her go. And almost to the point that it was so uncomfortable that I was about to start going, and the cars behind me, like I could just feel it. If I were the cars behind me, I would have already honked. Like I'm very impatient, and I know that's not necessarily the best thing, but it's just real, it's just who I am. And so I let her out, but I was literally about to start going. Like I started to inch forward because I'm like, all right, well, if you're not gonna go, then I'm not gonna let you out. So finally she gets out, she waves, and she was nice about it, but I couldn't help but think of this concept of how often we get so distracted by the thing that makes us mad that we can't even see that there's actually something good happening in the first place. And like so often on podcasts, I talk about things that happen in the office and case studies and chiropractic care. And while I think that the way our brain pays attention definitely has a lot to do with chiropractic care, I just wanted to bring you this simple message because I think it's so powerful to think about this idea that sometimes we get so focused on what upsets us and what makes us mad and what makes us angry and how someone did us wrong that we can't even see the right in the situation. Like literally this car goes by, the woman sitting there waiting to get out, and the next car behind her, I sat there long enough that I was gonna go because I didn't think she was actually gonna pull out. All because she was so mad at the car that it already went by. And like, this is the reality, is I think that most of us live in a place where people frustrate us or things let us down or life circumstances aren't what we think they should be. And the reality is like, a lot of times things aren't as they should be because we're just focusing on what isn't instead of what is. And I think it's such a powerful lesson and a powerful message to just consider, like, where do you focus your energy and attention? Like, you know, this week it's been super, super rainy here in California, and we know we moved to California so we didn't have to deal with rain and deal with the weather, but the reality is like no matter where you live, at some point you're gonna have some weather. And while most people want to complain about the rain and how wet it is and how the roads suck and how people can't drive and like all these things, we forget to focus on the thing that actually the reality is that like we need rain so that our plants don't dry up. Like we need rain. There's a drought in California to fill up reservoirs to allow to have more water in these places. And it's like, it's just so interesting to think about, like, we can focus on the negative. We could be the woman in the car who's mad at the person who already passed us, but the person already passed us. Like, even if she's focusing and spending that energy being mad at that person, like, they're already gone. And they're not thinking anything about her. Like, they're literally living their life, doing their thing, and so many of us get stuck with these resentments and these guilts and these shames and these anger at people, and it only affects us. It doesn't affect anybody else except for yourself. And the reality is like when we choose to show up differently and we choose to pay attention differently and we choose to pay attention to what's right, like a whole new possibility opens up. And just like I shared, I think it's so interesting that we were literally the car right behind the car that didn't let this woman go. And she almost missed her opportunity because she was focused on something that had already happened that we couldn't take back. Like we can't rewind time. And I think so often as human beings, we get stuck in the past and we get stuck and upset and frustrated about the way that things should have been. And we can't look at like the gift and the possibility and the, sometimes the amazing things that happen in each episode of the things that are seemingly bad. Like there's been so many times in my life when I look back on something that was bad or wrong or negative, and what I actually see now is that God was working for me to build something within me to give me like an ultimate gift. And I don't think that I would be where I'm at as a dad, as a business owner, as a person, like the way I look at myself in the mirror, all of those things are kind of built in some of the times of struggle and in some of the times of chaos and in some of the times of frustration. And so when I see this woman who's so upset and frustrated, I just can't think about like sharing the message with you of really asking the question, where in your life are you focusing on something that happened in the past? Or thinking about like arguing with reality? Because what that woman was actually doing was she was arguing with reality. She was saying it should have been this way. You should have let me out. Flipping the car off that had already gone by. Like that car did not see her flip them off. That car did not see her frustrated for the next 60 seconds at least. That car didn't see any of that. Like they were gone, they were on their way, living their life in reality. And the reality is they didn't let him out. And so in those times, I think it's so important that we ask ourselves, like, what is the actual reality? And if we argue with reality, this is where anxiety comes in, this is where depression comes in, this is where frustration comes in, this is where pain comes in. And like I can't help but not talk about the brain, because what stress hormones do, like this woman, by getting frustrated at the car who didn't let her out, released stress hormones in her body. And what did it force her to do? It forced her to focus on, stress hormones force us to focus on things that are scary or things that are bad or things that are negative. And it literally, you could watch in real time as she finally realized that, oh, there's a car right behind me letting them out. I feel very silly. And like she waved and she was nice about it, but her stress hormones got the best of her, because stress hormones turn off the part of the brain that is responsible for our rationality. Like if there was a bear or a lion or you were gonna get a fight, it doesn't make any sense for you to be able to have like rational, conscious thoughts. Your thoughts need to be, I need to take that thing down and I need to kill it, or I need to run away from it. Nothing else matters in that moment. And so we could see this play out in real time. And the unfortunate part about it is like stress hormones are actually going to direct our attention towards things that are scary, towards things that make us anxious, because the stress hormones in and of themselves are designed to make us look for a threat, because it makes us feel safe and protected. Like we feel safe if we're constantly on alert and we're looking for, but it doesn't really create safety. What it creates is anxiousness over time and long term. And so, this is why when we take care of moms who are coming in and they're like, I just have so much stress in my life getting the kids from point A to point B, and it takes me, it takes me melatonin to sleep at night, or I have difficulty waking up in the morning, or I wake up in the middle of the night and my brain's running. Like there's all these things that happen that create conditions inside our body, and it's usually just because we're arguing with reality. And on the flip side of that is like we see kiddos, this week in the office I had this really cool thing happen where a kid came in for back pain. And like this is a young kid. And when he came in, initially like mom and I had a conversation and they were kind of there, and I asked, is there any, and I ask everybody this question, I'm like, is there anything else that we could possibly help with, even if you didn't think chiropractic had any relationship to it? And one of the things that they're now noticing with their kiddos is that like way better focus when getting their homework done, like getting their homework done faster, being more attentive and not like getting distracted by a million things. The question is, why is that the case? It's the case because stress hormones are made to allow us to focus our attention in certain places and not stay focused on one thing for a long period of time, because that would be disadvantageous to us if there was a bear or a lion attacking us in the woods. So we want to be on alert. We want to not pay attention to any one thing for a long amount of time. So as we're adjusting this kiddo or anybody that we take care of, as we move the joints of the spine, we actually wake up the brain, and when we wake up the brain can actually start to focus attention in certain places. focus attention in places where it would allow them to get more done, to be more productive, to be more present. And this is ultimately what we talk about in the office all the time, is like presence, productivity, profit. The reason that we talk about presence is because stress hormones allow us to not be present. Just like the woman in the car, like she was so not present with what was happening in reality that she almost missed her opportunity to get out by me because her stress hormones got the best of her. And now I always think, like, chiropractically speaking, I'm running the thought through my head, like, what if she was getting adjusted? Could she have easily just let that slide off her back instead of being so frustrated that she got distracted and like held up traffic? So that's one thing, right? When we talk about presence. When we talk about productivity, if we're more present, if we're in the moment, if we're not worrying about and arguing with reality, wouldn't it make sense that we would get more done? And when you're more productive, you're gonna get more done in a faster amount of time, which then allows you to profit. So yes, make more money. We help entrepreneurs with making more money all the time, but what we care about in our office is profit from life experience. Like, it's so cool to see kids who come in and they're like, oh my gosh, like mom didn't make me skip soccer practice today because I actually got all my homework done for the first time. Or, oh my gosh, I was able to get home from a long day of work where I would be exhausted and just want to drink a beer and turn on the TV, and I actually connected with my kids and sat down and played with them and paid attention to what they have going on in their lives for the first time. Like, that's the profit that we're talking about, is enjoying life experience full out. And I'm so passionate about this because, like, this seemingly insignificant incident of this woman just being frustrated, arguing with reality, backing up traffic, because she was so focused on the negative instead of the gift that was literally right there in front of her, that she couldn't see it. And that's a result of stress hormones. And every person that we adjust, every person that we see inside of our office, what we are doing when we adjust those people is we're literally waking up their brains so that those small stresses, like the car not letting her out, just roll off her back. And she realizes it's not something to be stressed about. I can still stay in the present moment. We're not taking away the stress from life. What we're doing is creating adaptability. We're creating a bigger bucket so we can push stress in and not overflow. And that is the reality of what we do in our practice every single day. So my friends, I go back to the beginning of the episode when I ask you again, is like, where are you arguing with reality? Where are you arguing what is? And how can you start to just love right now, in this moment, everything that is? And anytime you argue with reality, I guarantee you that's when stress is going to show up, that's when anxiousness is going to show up, that's when shame is going to show up, that's when guilt is going to show up. And if you can just be real about the facts of life today as they actually are, just like the woman who had no reason to be frustrated because the next car let her out, like, life becomes so much more of a gift and so much more magical. And my friends, that's such a powerful message that I could share with you today on this podcast. So I hope you got some value out of it, and I will for sure, as you know, come at you again next week. I love you. I appreciate you. Peace.